EU leaders have been warned against siding with China in the escalating trade war with the US as the Brussels bloc is urged to evaluate its long-term interests with its American allies post-coronavirus pandemic. The warning comes from Professor Robert Sanders of the University of New Haven, who told Express.co.uk the EU should examine where its best interests lie and pick the right side between the US and China, arguing he would put his money on the European Union's American allies. He said, the EU needs to evaluate where its best interests are. Are they going to take a little bit of what China throws on the table and be satisfied with that? Or is there a better strategy, one that is a bit more long-term? Because China is not going to get weaker over time. China is only going to grow in strength throughout Asia, so if you're going to oppose a strengthening China, you need to have strength in opposition. So these countries need to decide what their long-term interest is. Is your long-term interest leaning towards China or leaning towards the US? The US brings many things to the table, but it won't bring the resources that China brings in people and trade because there is a lot of deficit there already. But in terms of long-term strength, I put my money on the US. Relations between China and the US have depleted since President Trump and Chinese Vice Premier Liu signed a Phase 1 trade deal which relaxes some US tariffs on Chinese imports and commits China to buying an additional $200 billion worth of American goods. This was seen as a breakthrough in the nearly two-year trade war between the world's two largest economies. By March, President Donald Trump made repeated references to the Chinese virus, which he says spread because of failures by the Chinese government. Now experts claim relations between the two nations are at their lowest for 30 years. Professor Yanzhong Huang, a senior fellow for global health at the Council on Foreign Relations, suggested that the pandemic was intertwined with U.S. presidential election politics.